He snatched the dagger from the mercenary. He immediately followed up with a flying kick, striking the mercenary in the head. The mercenary was kicked out 5 to 6 meters. Lin Seven-Night wielded 2 long knives in the reverse grip and chased after the mercenary. This move nailed both long knives into the mercenary's body. It all happened in the blink of an eye. The other scattered mercenaries also drew their weapons and charged towards Lin Seven-Night. They realized that firearms were useless against this kind of monster. Lin Seven-Night pulled out a long knife from one of the mercenaries on the ground, thinking to himself, "Mad Scorpion should have 9 people. 2 have died at my hands. As for the remaining 5, one has yet to show up." But of the 4 mercenaries left at the moment, taking turns to attack would be enough to entangle him. At this moment, in the hallway of Lin Seven-Night's house, a man lit a cigarette and took a puff. He looked out the window at the mercenaries fighting with Lin Seven-Night, and disdainfully snorted, "A bunch of fools. Such incompetence yet dare to be the believer under Lady Snake. Embarrassing." This person is Lu Liang, the believer in the flowing stage, occupying the 16th seat. He took 2 puffs before tossing the cigarette butt away, mumbling to himself as he went upstairs, "To subdue that monster, all I need to do is to catch the woman and child upstairs." Such a simple task, yet 3 or 4 people ended up dead. In this world, being cautious never goes wrong. Getting things done relies on using your brain, not just brute force. Lu Liang arrived at the floor where Lin Seven-Night's house was located, but he was taken aback. He looked at the black dog lying at the doorway of Lin Seven-Night's house and couldn't help but wonder, where did this dog come from? It's so ugly. On New Year's Eve, on the streets downstairs from Lin Seven-Night's house in Songnan City, Lin Seven-Night fought alone against 4 mercenaries, and the battle was intense and hard to distinguish. Suddenly, the 2 mercenaries behind Lin Seven-Night took advantage of the distraction of the front battle and launched a surprise attack. Lin Seven-Night suddenly turned around, with golden light shining in his eyes like flowing sand. The terrifying divine authority instantly erupted. 2 mercenaries charging forward were instantly frozen in place, unable to move a muscle. Lin Seven-Night has never shown any mercy towards enemies. With a swift motion, she severed the throats of the 2 men. The blade cut so deep that even their spines were visible. Watching the 2 men fall, Lin Seven-Night expressionlessly shook the blood off the blade. The hot blood dripped to the ground, melting the layers of accumulated snow. The remaining 2 mercenaries felt a chill in their hearts. Even with 4 people attacking, they couldn't take them down. With only the 2 of them left, where would they still have a chance? One of the mercenaries quickly took out a walkie-talkie and shouted frantically, "Scorpion number 1! Scorpion number 1! Why haven't you made a move yet?" Lin Seven-Night would not bother listening to his nonsense, swiftly wielding the 2 guns on the ground at abyssal deity ruins. He turned the gun barrel and aimed at the 2 mercenaries behind him. At this moment, the 2 finally understood completely. What stood before them was not some teenager of a dozen years old, but a figure comparable to a monster. Gunshots rang out shortly after. The 2 fell into a pool of blood with gunshot wounds, while at the same time, heavy footsteps approached from a distance and drew closer. Lin Seven-Night frowned and looked at the newcomer, saying, "Are you Scorpion number 1? Unfortunately, you are too late." Scorpion number 1 glanced at the body on the ground, laughing inexplicably. "Late? No, my friend, I arrived just in time." While speaking, Scorpion number 1 began to take off his tactical vest, shirt, and gloves. In no time, he had completely removed his upper body clothing. Next, Scorpion number 1 picked up the pendant hanging from his neck. He gently kissed it on top. Red light suddenly appears in the mist, shining brightly like a high-powered LED on the pendant, dazzlingly bright. Scorpion number 1's smile is even more radiant, showing that he is very happy and even eager to explain to Lin Seven-Night. Inside this pendant, it is the forbidden ruins of sequence 209. It quickly absorbs the blood of all dead creatures within its range, gaining their power and stacking it up. This is a treasure. Those fools have no idea that I have this thing. As he spoke, the blood on those corpses quickly gathered towards Scorpion number 1's pendant. Wait until a few corpses have turned into mummies. Scorpion number 1 suddenly grabs the pendant, laughing sinisterly. "I never thought I could defeat a dual god agent with these few useless people. Their only purpose is to become my sacrifices." Lin Seven-Night can feel that the opponent's stage is rapidly rising. The quantitative change has caused a qualitative change, and it has already reached the flowing stage. Lin Seven-Night doesn't want to listen to his nonsense and directly pointed the barrels of 2 guns at Scorpion number 1. Then the two guns suddenly opened fire. But Scorpion number 1 is extremely fast. Ordinary firearms simply cannot keep up with his speed. Just in an instant, he appeared by Lin Seven-Night's side. He suddenly leaped up and slashed towards Lin Seven-Night. Lin Seven-Night raised his two knives to block the blow. But Lin Seven-Night could feel that the force of this blow was extremely powerful, and the speed was faster than his own, almost completely overpowering him. At one point, the two of them were exchanging moves back and forth, making it difficult to distinguish between them. The field was almost entirely filled with the afterimages left by the two. Suddenly, Scorpion number 1 stabbed towards Lin Seven-Night's chest and abdomen. Lin Seven-Night pressed down with both hands, grabbing the long handle. But Scorpion number 1 countered with a backhand strike. He raised both hands in front of Lin Seven-Night. For a moment, the whole chest was wide open. Scorpion number 1 lunged forward aggressively, stepping on Lin Seven-Night's chest with one foot. Lin Seven-Night was kicked back and flew out, crashing into the wall on the street. He took a deep breath and quickly stood up. But at this moment, Lin Seven-Night's phone rang. The ringtone was actually the theme song from the Smurfs. Lin Seven-Night quickly took out his phone and found that it was a call from his maternal aunt. Before he could react, Scorpion number 1 had already approached and kicked towards Lin Seven-Night's head with a high whip leg kick. He quickly ducked his head to dodge, then took advantage of the situation to spin on one foot. He kicked Scorpion number 1's shin with a sweep kick. But this kick was ineffective. Scorpion number 1 not only didn't fall but didn't even flinch. Instead, he pushed Lin Seven-Night back. Scorpion number 1 took advantage of the opportunity to chase after Lin Seven-Night. Lin Seven-Night had to quickly toss the phone aside to avoid it being damaged. Scorpion number 1 couldn't help but laugh as the continuous ringing sounded. He asked, "Is that the home phone? The woman? Or the child?" "Yes, today is New Year's Eve. They should be wanting to ask you how you are doing outside and if you have prepared a New Year's Eve dinner." When it comes to this, Scorpion number 1 once again attacked Lin Seven-Night, who could only lift his sword to defend. At the stalemate, Scorpion number 1 continued to provoke Lin Seven-Night by saying, "What a warm family they must be. They probably have no idea you are so close to them, fighting for your life." Scorpion number 1 said, and with a sudden forceful movement, he pushed Lin Seven-Night back once again. Lin Seven-Night's mental power is close to its limit at this point. The abyssal deity ruins cannot be sustained for much longer. The battle must be resolved quickly. Upon thinking this, Lin Seven-Night took a deep breath and rushed towards Scorpion number 1 suddenly. Scorpion number 1 laughed out loud. The battle is not over yet. At the moment when the two were about to make contact, Lin Seven-Night's footsteps changed suddenly, started circling around Scorpion number 1 at high speed. Even the snowflakes stirred up formed into a tornado. Suddenly, Lin Seven-Night rushed out of the snow curtain. He appeared behind Scorpion number 1. Scorpion number 1 reacted quickly, swiftly turning around to block. But at this moment, Scorpion realized something was wrong. Lin Seven-Night only had a knife in hand at this moment, and suddenly reached back with his hand. He pinched his two fingers together and made a slash in the air. Scorpion number 1 suddenly heard a buzzing sound coming from behind, and the sound was clearly approaching close, completely unavoidable. In an instant, the missing long knife had already pierced into Scorpion number 1's back. Scorpion number 1 staggered. He finally fell to the ground with unresolved resentment and could not get up again. Completely dead. Lin Seven-Night is also nearing exhaustion, half kneeling on the ground. He picked up his own phone. He took a deep breath and answered his maternal aunt's call, hearing her worried voice coming from the other end. "You, my child, have been calling for so long without answering. How come you didn't actively call home during the Chinese New Year?" Lin Seven-Night glanced at the bodies on the ground and forced a smile, saying, "Maternal aunt, I was just communicating with my comrades. I didn't check my phone and was planning to call you later." Upon hearing this, the maternal aunt's tone softened as well, saying, "All right, at least you have a conscience, kid. How are you doing in the army?" Lin Seven-Night reached down and picked up the pendant that had fallen off Scorpion number 1, while continuing to listen to the maternal aunt's chatter. "I'll tell you, little knight, I'm still stewing fish in this pot. The flavor is really good now, but unfortunately you are not at home." Lin Seven-Night suddenly looked up at the fireworks blooming in the sky. He said to his maternal aunt on the microphone, "Maternal aunt, Happy New Year. The peace of 1,000 households always needs someone to quietly guard." On New Year's Eve, just after a big battle, Lin Seven-Night, who had just called his maternal aunt, felt a little melancholy at this moment. Sitting on the edge of the rooftop, staring blankly at the lights of thousands of families under the fireworks. Lin Xian appeared on the rooftop silently and asked softly, "Why, do you regret it?" Lin Seven-Night shook his head firmly. "No regrets. These lights must be guarded by someone." Lin Xian approached and leaned on the fence. "You won't be able to go back in a short time. The more often you go back, the more people will notice this place." Lin Seven-Night nodded. Lin Xian continued, "Actually, even if you don't come today, they won't get into trouble." The team leader went to your house to deliver materials and posted a forbidden item notice right at your doorstep that day. The forbidden item, named Unending, appears to be a transparent small piece of paper, but it can unfold into a miniature forbidden ruins. Once someone tries to break open Unending with forbidden ruins, it will transport you, your maternal aunt, and younger brother to the basement of the office. This thing is not cheap, but each member of our 16th squad has one to protect their family members. Lin Seven-Night has some doubts. How is this achieved? Lin Xian chuckled lightly. Otherwise, why do you think the captain is so poor? Let's go, you can't eat the New Year's Eve dinner at this house. But another home will always welcome you. Before long, the two returned to the office and saw that several dishes had already been placed on the table. As Red Tassel was enjoying a chicken leg, Lin Seven-Night and the others tidied up a bit and then also started to help out. When he brought out the bowls, he was still asking, "By the way, Sister Red Tassel, did they catch the person with the flying wooden stick?" Red Tassel shrugged. "No, that guy ran really fast. I didn't dare chase him with forbidden ruins in the city in broad daylight." Lin Seven-Night thought for a moment. "I think he probably means no harm, it's just his identity." Before Lin Seven-Night could finish speaking, Chan Wilderness's voice came in. "Fish soup is ready." Chan Wilderness carried a large pot of fish soup and was followed by C. Little South, who was carrying dishes as they walked in. Wu Southern Xiang looked at the table full of dishes and smiled bitterly, saying, "Captain, don't bother anymore. We have enough dishes. You have all been busy for 2 hours. Sit down and eat quickly." As everyone gathered around the dining table and raised their glasses, Chan Wilderness said, "This year, old friends have passed away, new friends have joined, and a lot has happened. But once again, we have successfully guarded this city for a whole year." Chan Wilderness then bowed to the crowd and said, "I want to thank each and every one of you on behalf of the countless beings in Songnan City. By this time next year we will still be sitting here, not missing a single person." Speaking of this, Chan Wilderness raises his glass. "Then let's raise our glasses, cheers and Happy New Year." On the other side, in the theme hotel, Biley Fatty opened a can of beer and handed it to Shen Azure Bamboo, saying, "Come on, swagger dude, this year, the three of us can only celebrate the new year together." Shen Azure Bamboo glanced at the beer. "During work I don't drink." Fatty grinned, "Don't worry. My bodyguards are already here. Even if you drink too much, it's not a problem." Shen Azure Bamboo was about to refuse again, but Fatty smirked and said, "This is the boss's order." Shen Azure Bamboo smiled bitterly and said, "Well, okay." The three raised their glasses and clinked them together. "Tonight we won't return until we're drunk." They had a night of no talk, and early in the morning, Lin Seven-Night was awakened by the biological clock with sleepy eyes. He arrived at the restaurant to see Wen Inkwisher, who was sleeping with his head tilted back, drooling, and Red Tassel, who was sprawled on the table, talking in his sleep. And outside at this time, it is the first day of the new year, with the sound of firecrackers resounding non-stop. Lin Seven-Night came to the courtyard of the office to start shoveling snow. At this moment he was still thinking about things. Tomorrow was the last day of the holiday, but so far no high-stage person had come to attack, especially that agent snake lady Medusa. Suddenly Lin Seven-Night's ears twitched, hearing a different sound. It seems like there's an explosion mixed in with the firecrackers. And isn't that the direction of the inn where Fatty and the others are staying? As expected by Lin Seven-Night, an explosion just occurred in the room where Fatty and the other three are staying. Shen Azure Bamboo and Chow Abyss are breaking through the window. And the two of them have already thrown Fatty down first. As soon as the two of them landed, they grabbed Biley Fatty and ran off without looking back. While running, Shen Azure Bamboo even used the Forbidden Ruins technique. He extinguished the flames in the exploding room. Fatty was panting as he ran behind the two of them. Unfortunately, stamina was never his strong suit. Chow Abyss scolded while dragging him to run. "I've been telling you to drink less, but you never listen. The enemies are already attacking, and you're not even sober yet." Suddenly, Shen Azure Bamboo rushed to the front of the two. He shielded the two with his back as four figures gradually emerged in the swirling wind and snow in front of them. Shun Azure Bamboo and Chow Abyss are on edge, ready for anything. Just then Fatty burped. He waved towards the four figures. The four figures in the wind and snow gradually became clear, approaching and kneeling down together. Earth, fire, wind, water, the fourfold forbidden wielder. We have met the young master. Shin Azure Bamboo and Chow Abyss were baffled by this. Goodness, are they on the same team? Fatty came down from Chow Abyss and explained, "Let me introduce you. This is one of the four forbidden wielders of our Bailey family, as well as my personal bodyguard team." Shin Azure Bamboo and Chow Abyss were still in shock, murmuring, "Forbidden wielder?" Fatty laughed. "A forbidden item of high risk level. Only the right owner can bring out the maximum effectiveness. This type of person is referred to as a forbidden wielder by our Bailey family. And these four all have the combat power of the flowing stage. They can even take on the sea stage if they work together, so we are very safe." Speaking of the forbidden wielder, a red-haired woman picked up a bag still dripping blood and said, "Young master, all three enemies at the flowing stage have been eliminated. Please rest assured. In addition, according to your instructions, the entire inn was booked in advance, so no one was injured." Bailey Fatty nodded and said, "Well done." Suddenly, the white-haired woman frowned. She said, "Young master, there are enemies approaching nearby. Please wait here, I will be back soon." As Fatty waved his hand, the four figures all disappeared at once. Chow Abyss scratched his head. Is this the true power of money manipulation? Shin Azure Bamboo was a bit puzzled. "So why did you hire me?" Fatty thought for a moment. Maybe it's to have three people play landlord together? On the other side, the new recruits' training camp. At this time, only the instructors were eating in the cafeteria. After all, the new recruits were all allowed to go out and have fun. Just as the few people were talking, the door was heavily pushed open. Everyone stood up and saluted when they saw the newcomer. "Hello, sir." The person who walked in. It's Yuan Gang. Yuan Gang at this moment has a fierce look on his face towards Instructor Hong. His eyes are not angry, but they exude a powerful aura as he looks towards some of the instructors. Ancient God's cult lays its secret snare. A tempting shade drifts through the frosted air. Along the fated road, the serpent's eyes await. Snake Lady meets Lin Boy in deadly fate. Training camp canteen on New Year's Day. When all the instructors were eating around the dining table, the canteen door was forcefully pushed open. Instructor Hong and Chief Instructor Yuan Gang walked in. Yuan Gang had a stern expression, exuding authority without anger. He looked towards one of the instructors and asked, "Why?" The instructor being stared at was taken aback, a little surprised, and asked, "Sir, what do you mean by that?" Instructor Hong took out his notebook and said, "During the third off-campus extreme training of the new recruits, you disappeared from surveillance for 2 hours. Where did you go?" Before the person could respond, Instructor Hong continued, "On the day the training camp was attacked, you sent encrypted messages twice using a satellite phone. You." Before Instructor Hong could finish speaking, the instructor suddenly roared, "Enough! Stop talking. I don't want to. They grabbed my parents from my hometown, I have no choice." The instructor banged his head hard against the table, demonstrating the regret in his heart. Yuan Gang still looked down at him expressionlessly. "You don't need to say these words to me. When we reach the Night Watcher's judgment court in Shangjing City, someone will naturally ask." He then turned his head to look at the other two. "And you too, Wanga Wu Ruatong? I never expected to have 3 undercover agents in my small recruit training camp." The two exposed individuals suddenly drew their weapons. Then they rushed towards Yuan Gang. But Yuan Gang didn't move at all, and a golden light suddenly burst out from his body. The golden light immediately shook off the two people who were about to pounce. After the two people landed, they struggled to get up. They looked at Yuan Gang with a surprised smile. "Yuan Gang, Lord Murmurs asked us to bring you a gift." As they finished speaking, bumps of varying sizes quickly rose on their bodies. Yuan Gang frowned slightly upon seeing this, and golden light emanated from the soles of his feet as he took a step. In an instant, a golden light shield enveloped the two fallen instructors, followed by a massive explosion sound. Instructor Hong, watching this scene, could not help but say, "Murmur? So they've been brainwashed. When did the people from the ancient gods' cult strike?" As the light shield gradually dissipated, there were no longer the figures of the two instructors on the ground, only a pool of blood. Yuan Gang's eyes filled with anger. "This farce has gone on for too long. It's time to end it." In the snowstorm on top of the tallest signal tower in Songnan City, a figure shrouded in mystery stood at the summit. She is none other than Medusa's agent, Snake Lady. She is looking down at the entire Songnan City with a mocking gaze. Suddenly, the phone rang beside her. She answered the phone. A voice on the other end said, "Several people embedded in the training camp have exposed Yuan Gang. He has left the camp. You don't have much time left." Snake Lady chuckled with some regret. "Ending so soon? I haven't had enough fun yet." The voice on the other end said, "I think I need to remind you that you didn't come to Songnan just to have fun." The voice on the other side paused for a moment and continued, "You are still a newcomer to the ancient gods cult, and your stage is not high. This time, you contacted Lin Seven-Night mainly for recruitment. If you really can't recruit him, just let Han Cloud make a move and make sure to kill him on the spot. With Han Cloud's strength, the only one in Songnan City who can defeat him head-on is Yuan Gang. But someone will hold back Yuan Gang." Snake Lady hung up the phone, looked at the city and the wind and snow and muttered, "Besides Han Cloud and Yuan Gang, is there also a sea stage hidden in the city?" She tossed Lin Seven-Night's photo into the vast snow as she spoke. She lazily stretched her body. "It's time to meet Agent Shuangshan." On the other side, Lin Seven-Night, who finished shoveling snow and carried 2 knives on his back, was about to go out when Chan Wilderness happened to see him. "Seven-Night, are you about to go out?" Lin Seven-Night nodded. "I'm going to pay a New Year visit." He was still worried about Fatty and the others and planned to go check on them. Chan Wilderness did not stop him, nodded and let Lin Seven-Night go out. As soon as Lin Seven-Night left, Chan Wilderness then looked at Wu Southernxiang, who was sitting, and nodded slightly. Wu Southernxiang stood up and woke up the sleeping Wen Inkwisher. He said, "Don't sleep, wake up and start working." On the other side, walking on the road is Lin Seven-Night. He suddenly sensed something was wrong and looked at the snow-covered ground by the roadside. He squatted down, reached out and rubbed the wall by the roadside a few times. A pair of vertical pupils carved on the wall came into view. Lin Seven-Night. Seeing this pattern, he furrowed his brows slightly. He turned his head and rubbed the ground again, only to discover that there were also many vertical pupiled eyes carved on the ground. Lin Seven-Night stood up and slowly closed his eyes. As he suddenly opened his eyes, abyssal deity ruins spread out. This time, the scene in front of Lin Seven-Night changed drastically. The sky and the ground were densely covered with snake eyes of various sizes. Lin Seven-Night's expression turned cold. This should be the Forbidden Ruins. Suddenly, a charming voice sounded. "It seems that the rumored dual deity agent is not only intimidating in name. The real person also looks very handsome." Lin Seven-Night looked at the newcomer and asked expressionlessly, "You are the Snake Lady, right? Are you here to kill me?" The Snake Lady walked gracefully and said, "Actually, I didn't intend to recruit you. They fancy you as a dual deity agent, but I don't care. After all, what truly pleases me is to snuff out a genius in the cradle. However, I have changed my mind now." The Snake Lady reached out and lightly touched the tip of Lin Seven-Night's hair, saying, "Such a handsome face. It would be a pity to ruin it." Suddenly, Lin Seven-Night drew his sword without any warning. He slashed down at the Snake Lady in front of him. However, the Snake Lady turned into a green light and disappeared. She reappeared on a big tree next to Lin Seven-Night. "Young man, you are so rude. Didn't you let me finish what I was saying?" Lin Seven-Night glanced at Snake Lady and said coldly, "Not interested." Snake Lady suddenly burst into laughter. Then she hung upside down from a tree and laughed, saying, "Are you a cool and domineering Zhao type? Come be my slave and submit to me at my feet." Speaking of which, Snake Lady's neck suddenly started twisting and distorting. She turned 2 or 3 times, looking at Lin Seven-Night with a sickly smile and said, "I will ravage your body and dignity, giving you supreme pleasure. Just the thought of it excites me. What are you still hesitating about? This is what many men dream of. Come on, kneel at my feet and kiss my toes." Lin Seven-Night looked disgusted, thinking to himself that this woman might be a pervert. In the end, he really couldn't listen anymore. He swung his long knife with both hands and chopped towards the Snake Lady again. The Snake Lady once again turned into a green light and disappeared without a trace. In the blink of an eye, she appeared behind Lin Seven-Night. Her voice gradually turned cold. "Are you rejecting me?" Lin Seven-Night turned his head slightly and said, "Not only do I want to reject you, I also want to kill you." Upon hearing this, Snake Lady suddenly widened her eyes and the long hair flying above her head turned into poisonous snakes. She pulled a dagger from under her skirt, her eyes filled with killing intent as she looked at Lin Seven-Night. "Then you." Go die. Lin Seven-Night quickly held his double knives in front of him upon hearing these words. The snake lady instantly vanished. The next moment, she appeared in front of Lin Seven-Night and slashed towards his neck with a knife. Lin Seven-Night quickly lifted his two knives to block the attack. Lin Seven-Night looked at the dagger of the snake lady and found that this item could not be controlled by the abyssal corruption. It should be a forbidden item exclusive to the Midisu agent. The snake lady looked at Lin Seven-Night, her eyes flashing with green light. Look into my eyes. Lin Seven-Night turned his head and sarcastically said, Am I supposed to turn into stone if I look at your eyes? Do I have a problem for looking into your eyes? He then turned around and slashed at Snake Lady. Snake Lady took 2 steps back to avoid the attack. Then the snakes on Snake Lady's head swelled rapidly, and several poisonous snakes pounced towards Lin Seven-Night. Lin Seven-Night jumped to dodge. With his eyes closed, Lin Seven-Night's mind quickly pondered the Snake Lady's various tricks: teleportation, petrification, and the snake hair. Fortunately, she is not at a high stage, otherwise he would have been defeated already. Judging from the strength of mental power, Snake Lady should be at the same pawn stage as himself. But why is the range of her forbidden ruin so large? In the meantime, the Snake Lady quickly moved to a tricky angle and launched an attack from behind Lin Seven-Night. Lin Seven-Night used both blades to block it. Suddenly, Lin Seven-Night looked at the landing point where Snake Lady had teleported to just now. Then he smiled. Snake Lady, I understand your trick now. The Snake Lady strikes where weak points lie. Divine authority ascends as Han Cloud draws nigh. Forbidden wielder walks a perilous thread. In battle with sea stage, dire dangers spread. As the battle rages on, Lin Seven-Night has already discerned the attack principles of Snake Lady from her every move. He loosened his right hand and swung the long knife backwards. Snake Lady was unable to dodge in time. Several snake heads on her snake hair were chopped off. Snake Lady quickly flashed away to dodge. The chopped off snake hair does feel pain. She is now looking at Lin Seven-Night angrily and roaring, seeking death. After she finished speaking, her green light flashed and disappeared again. Lin Seven-Night turned the long knife in his hand. He stabbed to the right just at that moment. Snake Lady is flashing in this direction now. Lin Seven-Night's long knife cut through Snake Lady's chest, splashing blood out. Snake Lady was startled and reappeared not far behind Lin Seven-Night. At this moment, Snake Lady was both shocked and scared, looking at the wound on her chest and unable to speak. Lin Seven-Night smiled with his eyes closed. At first, I thought those snake eyes on the street were just a trick you used to scare people. It wasn't until just now that I realized they are part of your ability itself. Your deity ruins ability uses those snake eyes to teleport to specific locations, creating the illusion of teleportation. Without the secret of teleportation, with your clumsy fighting skills, you are no match for me. As for the petrified snake eyes. Speaking of which, Lin Seven-Night opens his eyes, one black, blue and one golden, sneering at the Snake Lady. You can try. Let's see after we face off, who will be the first to petrify or die. As Lin Seven-Night's double deity ruins erupts, when facing this Snake Lady with divine authority, one can't help but feel mentally scattered, as if their head had exploded in an instant. The eyes are even more agonizing, with a piercing pain that feels like being gouged alive in the eyeballs. Lin Seven-Night took the opportunity while she was covering her eyes and unable to see. He rushed to the front of the Snake Lady with a knife in his hand. Then came a loud clash of gold and iron. But it was Lin Seven-Night who flew backwards. Blood was flowing from the corners of his mouth. He looked up and saw a young man with glasses holding a long spear standing in front of the Snake Lady. The young man glanced at Lin Seven-Night. Hello, I am Han Cloud, the believer, the 13th seat. Lin Seven-Night is on full alert. Just now, that strike from this Han Cloud was at least at the flowing stage peak, and it might even be the sea stage. Han Cloud, expressionless, said to the Snake Lady behind her, You may leave. Snake Lady clicked her tongue, turned around and left. Her body gradually turned into a green shadow and disappeared. Lin Seven-Night did not stop him. He knew that with Han Cloud there, he couldn't kill Snake Lady himself. He stared at Han Cloud and asked, Are you also here to recruit me? Han Cloud's energy surged as he said emotionlessly, I'm afraid I'm not here to recruit you but to kill you. Just as the two were about to engage in battle, a sudden golden light appeared in the sky. Lin Seven-Night was startled. Han Cloud's eyes flashed with a hint of nostalgia as he murmured, Night Watcher's no restriction airspace, isn't it? Then a golden light shot out, a beam of light between the two of them. 6 figures gradually emerged, It was the full team of the 136th Squad. Chun Wilderness looked at Han Cloud. The full team of the 136th Squad is here. Who is looking for trouble? At the same time on the other side of the lake, a figure smashed through the ice and sank into the water. A red-haired man watched the scene, his body emanating terrifying waves of sea stage. At this moment, two figures leaped from behind the red-haired man and attacked him. They were the two members of the Bili Fatty Forbidden Wielder bodyguard team. The two Forbidden Wielders joined forces to unleash a massive explosion. But in the next moment, the red-haired man broke through the smoke and dust of the explosion and rushed towards the two of them. Forbidden Wielder with red hair has not figured out the situation yet. He was punched by the red-haired man and smashed onto the icy surface. The Forbidden Wielder with white hair was about to launch an attack. The man with red hair took the first step and punched the Forbidden Wielder in the waist and abdomen. The force was so great that it lifted her whole body off the ground. Watching as both Forbidden Wielders were defeated, Chow Abyss, who was hiding not far away, whispered to Fatty beside him, "It seems like your bodyguards are about to lose." Fatty growled softly, "Shut your crow's mouth. Where did this crazy sea-stage lunatic come from, relentlessly trying to kill me? With the 4 Forbidden Wielders teaming up, we can barely fight against sea-stage. If this continues, we're all done for." Shin Azure Bamboo thought for a moment. "How about you first settle the accounts for the past 2 days?" At this moment, a water dragon suddenly drilled out of the hole smashed in the ice. The water dragon lifted 2 figures out of the water. It is the 2 Forbidden Wielders who were smashed through the ice and fell into the water. The man with red hair laughed wildly and rushed towards the 2 of them. The ice in front of him suddenly shattered. Several giant attacks came at him, but the red-haired man was extremely fast, dodging every single one of them. In a flash, he rushed to the front of the golden-haired Forbidden Wielder. He ruthlessly struck out with a palm, sending the whole Forbidden Wielder flying out. The man with red hair stopped his attack, looking at the injured Forbidden Wielder standing in front of Fatty and the others, and said with a smile, "Even the Forbidden Wielder of the Bili family is no exception. They are all injured to this extent and still want to stop me." The Forbidden Wielders did not speak, but showed everything through their actions. The fierceness in the red-haired man's eyes grew stronger. He smiled and said, "Good, very good. Then all of you can just die together for me." Sea stage emerges, Yuan Gang enters the battlefield. All forces of Songnan deploy in full formation. Trap Cloud encounters fierce and violent windstorms. In Netherhall, the Unseen begins the attack. At the mysterious sea stage, the red-haired man is about to eliminate several Forbidden Wielders. Bili Fatty quickly stepped out and shouted, "Hold on. Wait a moment, you tell me how much were you paid by the one who hired you? I from the Bili family will offer you 3 times that amount." The man with red hair raised an eyebrow. "Kit, do you think I am someone who lacks money?" Suddenly, the man with red hair's gaze sharpened. He glanced behind him and said with a smile, "You finally came." And at this moment, behind him appeared the figure of Yuan Gang. Yuan Gang gave him a once-over. "Are you releasing the sea stage aura so recklessly to chase and kill Bili Daylight just to lure me over?" The red-haired man sneered. "So what? Since you're here, you won't be able to leave in a short time." Yuan Gang frowned. "Then you will have the opportunity to let another sea stage go and kill Lin Seven-Night, right? But why do you think that in this Songnan city the only one who can kill sea stage is me, Yuan Gang?" On the other hand, all members of Team 136 arrived at the battleground where Lin Seven-Night was fighting against Han Cloud. Han Cloud had a cold expression. "The Night Watcher team from Songnan, a 3rd-tier city, can't do anything to me yet." Team 136 ignored him, but Red Tassel approached and greeted Lin Seven-Night. "Seven-Night, little brother, we're here to save you." Lin Seven-Night smiled with a mix of gratitude and helplessness. "What a bunch of fools." Then he turned to Chun Wilderness and asked, "Captain, is that a sea stage? Can we defeat it?" Chun Wilderness drew out his knife and said, "Let's try." He stared at the person in front of him and said loudly, "Han Cloud, former captain of the Gusu City Night Watcher team, why did you willingly become a lackey of the ancient gods cult now?" Han Cloud's voice was emotionless. "When one day you see your own team members die in front of you, you will understand my choice." He finished speaking and stared intensely at Lin Seven-Night. "My target is only this young man. You can leave now, and I won't make things difficult for you. Don't make meaningless sacrifices." And his response was, Lung Xian answered by throwing out a grenade launcher. He aimed at Han Cloud and fired a high-explosive grenade. A violent explosion followed, lifting a huge fireball. Suddenly, the howling gale raised the Han cloud and wielded the long spear to sweep away the fireball. But at this moment, Red Tassel has already rushed in front of Han Cloud. He raised his spear and smashed it down. Han Cloud didn't choose to directly block it. Instead he dodged and retreated. The next moment he appeared behind Red Tassel. Just as he was about to launch an attack, he suddenly felt a wave of guilt. When he looked down at Red Tassel again, he found the figure before him had transformed into someone else. He muttered in disbelief, "Ching ching." But the next second, Han Cloud's ashamed eyes refocused. Not correct. Is this a Forbidden Ruins of the Spiritual Illusion class? By the time he reacted, Red Tassel's long spear had already swept towards his chest and abdomen. Han Cloud changes his footwork. A strong gust of wind erupted around him as the center. The strong wind blew Red Tassel back and knocked him down. Han Cloud looked at Red Tassel but was actually speaking to an Inquisher, saying Forbidden Ruins Sequence 180, Inner Demon Binding. When Inquisher smiled and said, "It's not a formidable Forbidden Ruins, but it seems surprisingly effective against someone like you who is plagued by inner demons." Han Cloud's face showed a cold smile. Is that so? Next, the raging wind enveloped him like a rushing river. And the wind grew stronger and stronger. It has even gradually enveloped all 136 personnel. Forbidden Ruins Sequence 079, Great Windstorm. Team 136 was blown all over the place by this sudden hurricane. Not to mention attacking, just staying upright was a challenge. Lin Seven-Night barely managed to stay upright by leaning on the straight knife in his hand. At this moment he has a clear understanding of how terrifying C-Stage's critical threat Forbidden Ruins really is. Suddenly, Lin Seven-Night felt his whole body relax as the pressure brought by the fierce wind decreased sharply. Wu Southernseong patted C Little South on the head. "Well done, Little South." Lin Seven-Night is a bit confused. "What's going on?" C Little South smiled and gestured with his fingers. Insulating veil can attach to the surface of the body, isolate external influences, repair injuries, and provide defense. Chun Wilderness took a step forward and looked directly at Han Cloud. 5 years ago, the team from Gusu City encountered the murmur of the ancient gods cult. 8 team members died, including 3 in the team's front line. At that time the team leader Han Cloud went missing. However, 2 years later he reappeared as the believer. Han Cloud frowned slightly and asked, "What do you want to say?" Chun Wilderness was frank and said, "I want to know if you joined the believer as a spy." Before he could finish speaking, Han Cloud interrupted. "You're overthinking it. Their soul contract is even more terrifying than you think. No matter what your purpose is, after signing the contract, you will only vanish into thin air and become their puppet completely. If one day you are left with only 2 choices, either fight to the death and die in battle with your teammates, or give up all dignity and freedom in exchange for the opportunity for others to survive, what would you choose?" Chun Wilderness frowned upon hearing this, with anger rising in his eyes. They actually use such means to force you to sign the contract. Han Cloud smiled and said, "The ancient gods cult would only be more brutal than you think. Now I am just the believer's 13th seat. And I can't go back either." Chun Wilderness fell silent for a moment, then nodded slightly and said, "I understand. I won't show any mercy to the believer." Han Cloud smiled when he heard this, a smile of relief, a smile that was heart-wrenching. He nodded slightly and said, "That's right." As Chun Wilderness unsheathed his long blade, his Forbidden Ruins unfolded in an instant. A simple yet sinister ancient building rose from the ground, enveloping everyone within. Lin Seven-Night gazed at the 3 words "The Nether Hall" on the plaque, deeply shaken. Wu Southernseong explained, "This is the captain's Forbidden Ruins Sequence 037, Black Impermanence." Lin Seven-Night exclaimed, "A Forbidden Ruins of such high sequence level should belong to a special team or the Shangjing Night Watcher team, right? Why did the captain come to Tsongnan City to become the captain of the 136th team?" At this point Han Cloud clearly recognized this Forbidden Ruins, surprised. "Is this Black Impermanence? Are you Chun Wilderness?" Chun Wilderness raised an eyebrow slightly. "So many years have passed. There shouldn't be many people who still know me." Han Cloud smiled and said, "Indeed, among the young people, not many know you. But 10 years ago, Shangjing Black and White Impermanence, the 2 heavenly geniuses, who doesn't know them? You suddenly disappeared 10 years ago. I never expected you to show up here in Tsongnan City. Why?" Chun Wilderness uttered 3 words. "I am willing." Han Cloud raised an eyebrow and said, "No, before you went missing, you were already at flowing stage. 10 years have passed. and White Impermanence has become the captain of the Shangjing team. Why are you still at flowing stage? Chan Wilderness then uttered 4 words. This is not important. Han Cloud nodded. Indeed. Whether you know these things or not is no longer important to me. As he spoke, Han Cloud suddenly accelerated and attacked Chan Wilderness. Chan Wilderness took a step back to avoid the sweeping long spear coming towards him. His body quickly turned into a shadow. When he reappeared, he was already beside Han Cloud. Next, he delivered a straightforward but extremely fast strike. This strike directly cut a gash in front of Han Cloud's chest. Blood gushed out. Beneath Impermanence's blade, even spirits quake with dread. It cleaves both flesh and soul, and steals the living's thread. Together to the grave yet reborn beyond the strife, at azure bamboo's snapping fingers, the storm finds ease in life. He watched as the Han Cloud in front of him showed no signs of retreating. Chan Wilderness simply opened his forbidden ruins black impermanence, and the imposing the nether hall appeared out of thin air, shrouding everyone in a chilling ghostly aura. Han Cloud, unwilling to show weakness, rushed forward to battle Chan Wilderness. He was wounded by Chan Wilderness with just 3 moves to his chest. Chan Wilderness succeeded with 1 move. He directly slashed at Han Cloud again. 1 slash directly chopped off a large piece of the front door of the nether hall. Although the nether hall is just an embodiment of the forbidden ruins, it is not something that an ordinary person can destroy. One can imagine how terrifying this blow is. When Chan Wilderness turned his head, there was actually a wound on his face. Han Cloud replied, "You are strong, but in terms of stage you are not as good as me. This is a serious injury." Chan Wilderness nodded. "I know. So I didn't plan on defeating you alone." As soon as he finished speaking, Red Tassel's fiery red long spear spiraled with flames as it flew out from behind him, aiming directly at Han Cloud. Han Cloud slightly leaned to the side to dodge this strike, allowing the huge flames to burst behind him. He said expressionlessly, "With this kind of attack, you cannot defeat me." The only response to him was the bullet fired by Long Xian, who set up a sniper rifle in the distance and pulled the trigger. Han Cloud, although evading the shot with a side dodge, still felt somewhat surprised. Is this a custom-made sniper bullet? He didn't wait for an answer, but instead encountered a mixed doubles match between Chan Wilderness and Red Tassel. Lin Seven-Night looked at Wu Southernxiang beside him and asked in confusion, "Aren't you going up?" Wu Southernxiang shook his head and said, "My forbidden ruins is special, it must be used at a critical moment, and I can't hold the knife now." Lin Seven-Night did not ask for details, nodded and said, "Then I will go first." With that, he drew out his twin swords, activated the forbidden ruins, and rushed towards the battlefield. In the battlefield at this moment, Red Tassel is fighting against Han Cloud. Suddenly, Chan Wilderness appeared behind Han Cloud. Han Cloud intended to evade, but suddenly felt a sharp pain in his head. The person's spirit became confused once again. He knew. This is Wen Inquisher's inner demon binding. So he forcefully gathered his energy and broke free from Wen Inquisher's forbidden ruins. At this point, Wen Inquisher immediately spat out blood. After all, it was too much of a stretch for him to use the pond stage to influence the sea stage. Once he was freed by Han Cloud, he would naturally be backlashed by mental power. However, the moment he fought for was already enough for Chan Wilderness. Sure enough, when Han Cloud was still struggling to break free from the inner demon binding, Chan Wilderness had already arrived behind him and ferociously struck with a slash. With 1 slash, Chan Wilderness didn't hesitate to retreat immediately. However, the wound caused by the slash on Han Cloud was emitting a strange black gas. Han Cloud seemed to sense something and lifted up his left hand. His left hand at this moment seemed to be decaying. Chan Wilderness said coldly, "Under the blade of impermanence, the physical body can be cut, the soul can be cut, and the lifespan can also be cut." Han Cloud laughed, even laughed somewhat happily. "Is this black impermanence? Maybe I might really die here today." And at this moment Lin Seven-Night arrived. He slashed at Han Cloud's neck with 1 stroke. Han Cloud raised his spear to block, followed by a sweeping strike. He shook Lin Seven-Night away. He then wielded the long spear towards Lin Seven-Night and launched an attacking strike. Chan Wilderness and Red Tassel have arrived behind Han Cloud at this moment. The two of them consecutively launched attacks on Han Cloud. At one point they actually suppressed Han Cloud. At this moment, Han Cloud shuddered all over as a strong wind blew the two people in Chan Wilderness apart. Before he could take any action, Wu Southernxiang appeared behind him. He hugged him tightly at once. Chan Wilderness quickly grabbed one with each hand, pulling Red Tassel and Lin Seven-Night along as they turned and ran. Under Wu Southernxiang's cloak, one could faintly see a terrifying amount of explosives. Then there was a loud explosion. Accompanied by the explosion, a huge mushroom cloud rose up. Red Tassel and Lin Seven-Night were both stunned, while Chan Wilderness remained looking normal. Red Tassel asked uncertainly, "Captain, what's going on?" Chan Wilderness remained silent for a moment before explaining. "Don't worry, Southernxiang's Forbidden Ruins is about rebirth. Under the flowing stage, he has 12 chances to be resurrected, he won't die." Lin Seven-Night thought, "Are there still such outrageous forbidden ruins in this world? No wonder they say that you must seize the opportunity when taking action." Red Tassel was somewhat incredulous. Has he always been fighting with this method? Chan Wilderness shook his head. No, a long time ago when he wasn't injured he wasn't like this. He was very strong back then. As the smoke from the explosion cleared, everyone saw Wu Southernxiang in the center of the explosion rapidly regenerating, waiting for his resurrection to be completed. Looking at the figure behind him with deep dread, all the chances of his final resurrection had been used up. He still couldn't kill him. Han Cloud, who looks like a wolf, looked at Wu Southernxiang and asked, "Are you undying from the Blue Rain team?" He responded, "Or the bullets shot by Lung Xian." Even if Han Cloud was hit by a bullet, he still didn't fall. He muttered, "Close call, you almost killed me." Then he thrust the long spear into the ground and said, "What a pity. Next, I will make you witness the true great windstorm." He only saw him clasping his hands in front of his chest, countless streams of air spreading out from between his hands. The wind created by the airflow grew stronger and stronger, eventually even raising a terrifying howling sound. Lin Seven-Night looked at Han Cloud in front of him. He couldn't help but shout. He has a vortex in his hand. The power inside is extremely terrifying. Once it forms the no-restriction airspace, it will be torn to shreds on the spot. By then, the raging winds that are stirred up may be enough to flatten half of Tsongnan City. Han Cloud stared blankly at the wind eye in his hand. He seemed to be suggesting to solve the problem fundamentally. "Time is running out for you." Lin Seven-Night was taken aback. Is Han Cloud hinting at something? Seeing this, everyone launched their attacks, but neither Lung Xian's bullets nor Red Tassel's long spear could get close to Han Cloud. Wu Southernxiang said, "There is a wind field around him where nothing can penetrate. We can't stop him." And Yuan Gang, accompanied by Bailey Fatty, is heading this way from no-restriction airspace. Shin Azure Bamboo, who was running, suddenly stopped when Chao Abyss looked at him in surprise and asked, "What's wrong? Can you see inside the no-restriction airspace?" Shin Azure Bamboo shook his head and said, "I can't see it, but I don't know why. Suddenly, I just want to snap my fingers inside." With the snap of the fingers, a sound rings out. The vortex that was about to take shape in Han Cloud's hand. In an instant, the smoke disperses and the clouds vanish. The members of Team 136 were all extremely surprised. How could such a large vortex just disappear like that? On the other hand, Han Cloud smiled and his expression was full of relief. He praised, "Well done." Cloud seeks with all his heart to find release. Ancient Gods Pact.